Sports World on the BBC World Service. For the best of previews to the sporting weekend, listen to George Addo Jr. on The Locker Room on Joy 99.7 FM.
Live on radio, live online. This is The Locker Room on Joy 99.7 FM with George Addo Jr.
Big weekend across major European leagues with a wonderful list of blockbusters to come. In Spain, an opportunity for Real Madrid to drive home a point against their noisy neighbours Atletico Madrid. Borussia Dortmund look to consolidate their top spot against a tricky Hoffenheim in Germany. And in England, this clash may well hand the title and top four race a telling twist.
Aguero in the penalty area, tries to lob the goalkeeper and succeeds! Superbly taken by Aguero! Going to be Alonso over the wall and in! Wonderful free kick for Chelsea! Pulled out low. Gundogan, first time shot, takes an deflection! Manchester City have the second goal! And it's Kompany who punches the air with delight!
Headed back across goal. Fabregas gets his second of the night, and Chelsea look home and hosed.
The ball played in for the header! Chelsea take the lead! Chelsea in front! David Silva, shot turn! David Silva seals it! David Silva low, left-footed! All the delight is away on that left-hand side! It's City's day!
Chelsea-Manchester City at the Etihad on Sunday could cause the pendulum to swing yet again in the closest title race in years. Manchester City lost to Chelsea in the reverse fixture, and avoiding a defeat will be top of the agenda. But how can Chelsea's new attack engine cause any problems?
Lovely ball in. Higuain! He's up and running and off the mark. First decent chance and he puts it away. Gonzalo Higuain's first goal in the Premier League. Chelsea 1, Huddersfield Town 0. Higuain! Oh, it's 4! What a goal! Chelsea were full of frowns on Wednesday night, but it's all smiles at Stamford Bridge now. 2 now for Gonzalo Higuain, and what a cracker this one was too.
We preview this game alongside Manchester United Fulham, Liverpool Bournemouth, Huddersfield Arsenal, and we're in Spain, France, Germany and Italy to monitor key clashes. Also coming up,
we believe that it was not fair to us. In such competitions, you cannot play a game and rest just a day. You need a day to recover and another day for training so that you can do a lot of corrections. But hey, we are here already. The organizers say let us play. We are just down, but we are not out.
Ghana's Black Satellites are looking to seal qualification to the FIFA Under-20 World Cup at the ongoing Cup of Nations in Niger. We'll be in Niger to preview the game ahead of the Mali clash later and gauge the chances of the team to make a return to the international scene since 2015. It's been a busy few weeks in the NBA with the all-star announcements, Anthony Davis trade rumors, and a blockbuster deal between the New York Knicks and the Dallas Mavericks to send injured big man Kristaps Porzingis to the Mavs. And we'll be delving deeper into completed and potential deals analysis here. Head to our Facebook page, joy/99.7, our WhatsApp line 0244 340437, or tweet at us at JoySportsGH and reacting to any of our discussions this afternoon. We'll be in Cordoba for updates from the ongoing Tennis Open and in London for a preview to the upcoming Athletics Indoor Championship slated for Birmingham. Time to talk about what the world is talking about in the world of sport. Hello from me, George Addo Jr., and welcome to Preview Friday, proudly sponsored by eBet Ghana. Just play. Charlie, the thrill of the game isn't just in the goals. It's in the extra winnings you can get with eBet. Monetize your passion with eBet. With huge winnings, high odds, and the most entertaining games, eBet is here to change the gaming space. Visit www.ebetch.com for a totally different gaming experience and stand the chance to win big. eBet. Just play.
You see the girl in back. If I get
Live on radio, live online, this is The Locker Room with George Addo Jr.
A big thank you to you wherever you are joining us on Joy 99.7 FM. It's The Locker Room, and we've got a lot to be discussing. On our Facebook page, Joy/99.7, we have a bit of your comments already. We're asking you the question about Liverpool. Are they merely under pressure, or they will definitely bounce back in this EPL title race? Well, the good place to begin now, though, is basketball. And we know, following the closure of 2019 NBA trading last night, the analysis is on with regards to issues surrounding Porzingis, Anthony Davis, and, of course, Kevin Durant and his runs. And, of course, the strength of teams going into the remainder of the season. As usual, our NBA expert, Yao Minta, was just on the beat.
So NBA expert Yao Minta joins me now with some perspective and, of course, a good look at the key deals done in the just ended NBA trading deadline. Of course, it did end yesterday at 8 p.m. for those of you who were keeping tabs on all of that. So, yeah, thank you very much for joining me. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, George.
Yes, good to have you here. At least you were not traded. You are firmly with us, and yes, we are going to be keeping you at least for the next 2 seasons, right? That's what our contract says, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Yeah. So initial, reports suggested Porzingis, who had the option to leave at the end of the season, had told the team he wanted to be traded. They're satisfied with the organization's inability to pull the team out of the doldrums here. What really was the thinking behind this move, and does it change anything major going forward?
Well, the major thing regarding this move is that the New York Knicks want salary cap space in order to attract free agents this offseason. Yeah. And having a guy who prior to this trade was the future of the franchise come out to say I'm dissatisfied with the way things are run with the team, they had to act, and they did act by trading him to the Dallas Mavericks, who were more than ready to have him because they have a star, an European star in Luka Doncic, and to pair him with a Latvian superstar that's in Kristaps Porzingis, that gives them the core of their future, because at the end of this season the franchise face, that's Dirk Nowitzki, is retiring from the game, so they need someone to step in his stead. And Luka Doncic is proving to be an excellent pick from the draft, but you need an established star to pair with him. That's why they went all in and got Kristaps Porzingis. But for me, I think the Knicks acted a little bit too hastily because they could have gotten more from that particular deal from the Dallas Mavericks, because you look
getting more players.
Getting more
some have
players.
Suggested that you could have had a deal that saw you take more players.
Exactly, more players. You look at what the New Orleans Pelicans are asking for Anthony Davis. Yes. That's exactly what the New York Knicks should have done, because the Pelicans are asking for as many as 5 key young players on the Los Angeles Lakers team, including Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma. They're asking for all these guys. So if you are the New York Knicks and you have a talented player, a guy who is just a year or two away from the level of Anthony Davis, why do you go in for a trade package that has only Dennis Smith Jr., Wesley Matthews, and DeAndre Jordan? I think
it just doesn't make a bit of sense. And this move had a lot of shock. I mean,
it was shocking. It was very, very shocking. No one saw it coming. Yeah. No one saw it coming, because the main projection for the New York Knicks was to keep Kristaps Porzingis and use him as a bait to attract the free agents.
Let's talk about Anthony Davis and, of course, trading over and everything. Would it make any sense? Like, what kind of sense does it make in wanting to push and wanting to leave? What is he hoping to achieve?
He wants to win titles. And basically, that's the main thing. He wants to win titles. If he plays this season, if he plays next season without signing any contract extension, he is eligible to sign a 6-year contract worth $300 million. He will be the first ever NBA player to strike gold in the $300 million zone. No player has ever reached that threshold. But he knows that in order to maximize the prime of his career, he has to move, because the New Orleans Pelicans are just not getting it right. When they get aggressive and they go to the market to go in for a free agent or a player under contract to pair with Davis, unfortunately, injuries happen. We saw it with DeMarcus Cousins. They went all in for DeMarcus Cousins to get him from Sacramento Kings. It worked. DeMarcus Cousins was playing brilliantly, but unfortunately he suffered that Achilles injury, and that was basically it for him. He couldn't get that big money contract for him to pair with Anthony Davis for the foreseeable future, and they had to let him go. And Golden State Warriors signed him for cheap because everyone around the league was scared because it was an Achilles injury, and a lot of NBA players' careers have dwindled.
Just after injuries,
including the great Kobe Bryant.
That's right. So
it scared them off, and that's why they had to let him go.
Well, this is not a trading window, let's say, or a window that should be calling for a lot and everything. But which are the big deals that you just have had a look at? Which ones will you call the big deal? Let's say your top three.
The biggest deal, Kristaps Porzingis.
Of course, yes. I mean, I should have kept that on the side.
I think that will be the biggest deal for
aside
me.
That.
Yeah. Aside that, looking at Harrison Barnes, the Dallas Mavericks again going all in for Harrison Barnes. They traded him away from the team, and they got guys from Sacramento Kings in Justin Jackson and Zach Randolph. And basically, this is a move that is to create enough space to sign Kristaps Porzingis to a very long-term contract once the season comes to an end, because Zach Randolph is in the final year of his contract. Justin Jackson is still on his rookie deal and can be easily let go. So once you have these guys on your roster, you create extra cap salary or extra cap space. Once this season is over, you will have them for just about 2-3 months, and that's basically it. Number two is Tobias Harris.
Okay.
Yeah, Tobias Harris has been traded from the Los Angeles Clippers to the Philadelphia 76ers, and that was a big deal because this guy he's having an all-star caliber kind of season, but unfortunately he couldn't make it to the all-star game, and he was eligible to sign a long-term contract. He's still eligible to sign a long-term contract at the end of this season. And the Clippers just let him go. They didn't want to commit to him because I think they don't see him as the ideal guy who will be the franchise player of the Clippers. For immediately makes the success a very, very big threat in the Eastern Conference, because going into this season, it was all about the Boston Celtics and Kawhi Leonard. And now the Milwaukee Bucks are good, but they are still too young. I don't think they are of a major threat in the postseason, because in the postseason things slow down. Teams really prepare for you as a team, as an opponent, and they can really go at it when it comes to your weakness. Yes, and so for me, I don't think they have it enough in terms of depth, in terms of tactics, because without a 3-point shot, you can easily nullify Giannis Antetokounmpo. Okay. But with 76ers, after getting Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butler, it is quite difficult to stop them, because
you boost your chances.
Because they have JJ Redick, they have Tobias Harris, they have Joel Embiid, they have Ben Simmons, and they have Jimmy Butler. That's a studded five-man team.
Well, I think I was going to push you to get your top three, at least. Porzingis one, and we got two others from you. Yep. Let's deal with your disappointment before we get into the LeBron James argument. That's started a bit right now. But are you disappointed with any teams who you expected to trade but didn't really push it?
Yeah, I expected the Los Angeles Lakers to really push it, because LeBron James isn't getting any younger.
Yeah, I know.
He is 34 years old. He is 34 years old. He just recovered from injury, and that's really scary for the Los Angeles Lakers. And he was away from the team for 17 games, and they slipped from 4th to 10th.
So question is, why wouldn't they go for? Why wouldn't they trade?
Exactly, because they want that star, that guy who would best complement LeBron James. And now it's Anthony Davis. Unfortunately, the timing was wrong. The timing behind his announcement for a trade request was wrong, and it pissed off a whole lot of people in the league. And you had like a unanimous call to the New Orleans Pelicans not to trade, not to accept anything from the Lakers. But if you are Magic Johnson, the president of basketball operations, I say you go for it, because the idea last season in the off season was clear enough cap space and try to woo Paul George in, but Paul George re-signed with the Oklahoma City Thunder. He didn't even have a sit-down meeting with the Los Angeles Lakers. So that should tell you, yes, you are a big market. Yes, you are the second most valuable basketball franchise in the world, according to Forbes. But at the end of the day, people care about winning. Who is on the Lakers roster?
Maybe Lakers know what they're not going to win anything, and they've understood that they're not going to win anything yet until these batting talents coming.
You throw everything at the New Orleans Pelicans.
Straight away.
Give them everything that they want, and dare them to walk away from a trade package of, say, Lonzo Ball, Kyle Kuzma, Brandon Ingram, and Ivica Zubac. And maybe a couple of draft picks. I doubt they will walk away from that deal.
Clearly, your huge disappointment is the Lakers.
Yeah, the Lakers. Yeah.
Let's look at it. With the trading that has been done, okay, yes, do you think any of your predictions at the beginning of the season then will change, or you expect things to be fairly stable?
I expect them to be fairly stable because I expect the Toronto Raptors to come out of the East. I expect them to represent the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals. Yeah. And I expect the Golden State Warriors and the Houston Rockets to really tussle it out for the Western Conference Final. That's a savvy move. That's a savvy move for the Rockets.
Let's just do this finally because we've got a lot of NBA fans talking about this. LeBron James became the fifth player in NBA history to pass 32,000 points. But of course, the irony and anticlimax is he actually had to endure his biggest defeat of his career on the same night and also scored 18 points for the Los Angeles Lakers. We're talking about 136-94. That's a bit of a beating, if you ask me, from the Indiana Pacers. So it's a big feat then for this man, LeBron James, as we've been talking about it, within 300 of legend Michael Jordan. How close is LeBron now to the almighty Jordan?
Yeah, he's very close because at the end of the day, Michael Jordan scored 32,292 points in his career. Yeah. LeBron James has 32,000 points. He needs 292 more points to equal.
Which you figure should be coming
because
soon.
Very, very soon. Because LeBron is for the season he's averaging 27 points per game. Yeah. So that should be 11 games, and you are past that mark. So I'm pretty sure he will surpass that mark easily in the shortest possible time.
Say 11. Becoming a legend, because I was checking out fifth player. We've got some players even ahead of Jordan, like you said. Yeah. So in terms of becoming a legend, I mean, how close is he?
Well, he can retire today, and he will be voted into the Hall of Fame. That's how big.
Number 6.
And
that's today at number 6.
Yes.
He got the chance of getting into number 2.
Yeah, he has every chance to get into number 2 because you look at the players ahead of him. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is number 1. Karl Malone is in there. Kobe Bryant is also in there.
Great stuff, and you're doing great stuff. Yamita, thank you very much for joining me on the show.
Thank you very much.
It's always great. Thank you very much, Yamita, once again.
And next, we move to Niger, where Africa's representatives for this year's FIFA Under-20 World Cup will be unveiled at the weekend. And we know the Black Satellites are in search of at least a point in the final group game against Mali. That's tomorrow. And they'll be hoping to reach the semi-finals there and see if they can grab a ticket. Now, that's interesting. We had to get into the action and make some sense of all of that. I had an earlier chat with my colleague, Benedict Owusu, on the matters arising there. And the first question for Benedict then was, have the Black Satellites been absolutely poor, or they just met a better side in Senegal?
Well, in terms of whether they've been poor or they've been very good, if you look at results, they've won 1, they've lost 1, and they are still in the competition. They are not out, so you cannot entirely say they've been very poor or they've been poor. And we just have to. It's just that in our game against Senegal, I don't want to use this as an excuse, but the coach mentioned that not having enough time to rest, and Senegal having 2 days rest before that game probably maybe caused the players. So I think that they haven't been that poor, at least as I said earlier. If they've won 1 and they've lost 1 and they're still in the competition, we can only hope for something good from them.
So then let's talk about the traces. Are there any traces of the problems they faced in the qualifiers building up to this and the friendlies? Because quite a number of pundits were worried about what they saw in central defence and midfield and even as much as in attack. And just before you answer that, just to give you that caveat, because everybody expected that the Black Satellites were definitely going to win that game against Burkina Faso, and the real job was going to be against Senegal and Mali. Can you trace anything
any bad thing really from the qualifiers and friendlies to this point?
They've not been able to gel as a team at this very tournament, and you will understand because of how these guys regrouped for this game. They didn't have enough time to, prepare together as a team. Some were coming from their respective clubs, and as we noted somewhere last week on the show, we mentioned that there's no FIFA sanctioned tournament, so no club will release their player for you, and especially when these Europeans at this time need their players, and if you're going for a tournament of this nature, it will always be very difficult to get your players. But notwithstanding, we got some of our players, and you could see that some of the players that played in the qualifiers are in, but after qualifying for this tournament and preparing the WAFU tournament, we didn't see most of these players. It was the local component that we used. Even in the trial games that we played in Niger, some of the players had not arrived. So when you watch this team in a game against Burkina Faso, it was there. In the last game we lost against Senegal as well, it was there. The cohesion is not there. It clearly shows that this is a team that are trying to gel together. They've just come together and they've been put on the pitch to play. I mean, based on their experience at their respective clubs, the coach will definitely trust these guys and the trainings that they've been holding at the tournament. But clearly, you see defense, Konda is trying so hard to gel with the players in defense, but you see if these players had gotten the time to train together, let's say been together for some few weeks before this tournament, I'm sure wouldn't be seeing the petty mistakes they are committing at the tournament. So it's just got to do with the players not having enough time to be together and then coming from their respective clubs straight into the team. Somebody like Tuku just joined the team after how many days? Just some few days to the tournament. You understand? And you threw such a player in a game against Senegal, and we saw how a pound out Sadiq came from Norgeland with Kudus. Kudus, he's been very good, but I mean, apart from his individual brilliance, what's his contribution to the team? We are not seeing that because they didn't really train together as a team before the tournament.
Well, then they have to kind of gel because the final game tomorrow is against Mali, and they need to get at least a draw. That's what we're saying. They don't need to lose that game. The Malians have also looked formidable. We're not too sure what to expect from them, but they're also a good side. And Mali. Mali are even more of a threat, really, than Senegal, because to say, the Malians have been really good.
Of course. Mali is a very, very good side. And as you mentioned, for me, even in this group, I tipped Ghana and Mali to qualify to the next stage of the competition. And you see how they play their first game, and then their second game, having lost that game, which they also have same points as that of Ghana. It came to me as a surprise. I think that is a very difficult game, very, very difficult game. We shouldn't sit down and think that they lost to Senegal and that we can also go ahead and beat them. Mali is a very good side. Very, very good side when it comes to these junior teams, and we've seen that of their team at this very competition. They were just unlucky in that game they lost to Senegal. So we shouldn't sit here and kid ourselves and think that we lost to Senegal. Mali also lost to Senegal, so we can go ahead and beat Mali. We have to be very, very careful. And I like something the coach said after the game against Senegal. He said that yes, they know they did things right, but it didn't go quite well as they expected, and that they will put everything they have in them in that game against Mali. That's exactly what they have to do if we have to make it to the next stage of the competition. But I think that it will be very, very difficult. And now we need a draw or a win to make it. So we don't have to settle for a draw, because if you go into a game thinking of a draw, you might end up losing the game. So all we have to do is to go in thinking of a win. If a draw comes and we qualify, fine, but it will be very difficult, and if we should lose to Mali, it wouldn't come to me as a surprise.
Well, that's the point. And Benedict is putting it rather mildly, but that's so the Black Stars were hoping to really make it to the World Cup again since 2015. Let's see if they can get to it. These games will be up tomorrow. Ghana playing Mali, and of course we'll see Burkina Faso up against Senegal. Let's deal with the games we're going to see later this afternoon, and the games will be played simultaneously per the rules of the competition. Here we've got a bit of a surprise with what we've seen in this group. We thought Nigeria and South Africa were going to take this and run away. Somehow, Burundi have come in to shock everybody in Niger. How surprised are you at the turn of events in Group A?
Well, I'm very, very surprised. Remember last week I told you that if you look at this very group, in terms of everything that has got to do with football, if you are talking about nations that are noted or known for football, and you talk of Nigeria, you talk of South Africa, I'm sure you will not mention Burundi or Niger, but now things have changed. In the past years, you can clearly see that football is not played with names, it's not played with countries, it's not played with what you've done previously, but you play football with what you're doing now, and you're as good as what you are doing now. And Niger and Burundi have shown all of us that things have changed indeed. the game they played, I think Niger drew their game. So that game I was very, very surprised how they were able to do that. But if you look at the Niger setup, one thing that they've done over the years that I think is really yielding results is bringing players from other places. So they are not focusing on nationals. If their nationals are not going to get the job done, why don't we get people from Ghana? Why don't we get talent from Ivory Coast? Why don't we get talent from other places to see if we can, build their capacity and use them as a national team? And that's what I think they are doing. They realize that they won't get players from Niger. The talents there are not talents that you can really build something out of. So now they have players coming from everywhere. And even in their national team, they have players from Ghana that are playing the national team. So a lot of players coming from other places, and I think that's what they've realized will help, and that's what they are doing. So I'm not really surprised that they are playing the way they are playing, and they've really surprised me. And I think that they are doing very well. And for me, I still think they have a chance. Burundi have a chance. Nigeria have a chance. But I still think that Nigeria and South Africa will still make it out of that.
Okay. So you're going to stick to your guns and that
Nigeria, South Africa.
Well. Anyway,
Nigeria have 4 points. South Africa with 2 points. Yeah.
Burundi with 2. Indonesia with 2 points. And Nigeria with 2.
And now South Africa will play against Niger, right?
Yeah. I mean, Nigeria go up against Niger.
Niger, South Africa, Burundi. Yes. Well, South Africa, I think, will get a result against Burundi. And Nigeria, of course, will win. Their worst will be draw.
And can you predict for the Ghana game? So try that.
The Ghana game?
Yes.
Well, Ghana game, of course, I would want Ghana to win. But if we win, it will be a slim margin. If we lose, it will be a slim margin.
Well, I think you should see Benedict's facial expression. It would give you a lot in terms of what to expect.
I'm not too confident.
I can see that. I don't want to describe the expression.
I'm not too confident about what I expect from the team. But I'm just hoping and praying that they will win that game. But as I said earlier, if we don't win, it won't come to me as a surprise.
All right. Thank you very much, Benedict, for your time then. All right, let's do some more then. Now time to hear from the BBC Joy Sports two-way series, and the BBC's Mats Faruqi was standing by. Good chat. Enjoy this.
Thanks for your time, and let's begin with the EPL title race, which looks to be swapping episodes after every match day. Liverpool look to be handling the pressure at the top pretty well. What, though, has gone wrong, and can they hold their nerves throughout the season, especially with the Champions League action to come next week?
I think you're referring there, George, aren't you, to those two back-to-back draws for Liverpool. First against Leicester and then again against West Ham on Monday night. They were both 1-1 draws, and Virgil van Dijk and the Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp were asked after that second one against West Ham on Monday about whether the team were nervous in this title race and if they were enjoying it. And they both said they were, but I wasn't entirely convinced by those comments. And Liverpool, well, they're suffering some injury concerns as well, aren't they? Particularly in defence. We mentioned that Nathaniel Klein and the fact that he's gone on loan to Bournemouth. That doesn't look like the wisest decision now from Jurgen Klopp, does it? And Liverpool have got the Champions League to come in a couple of weeks. They play the German champions Bayern Munich in the last 16. But other than that, they just have league fixtures to focus on. So that's certainly a positive for Jurgen Klopp's side, particularly when you consider that Manchester City also have the Domestic League Cup and the FA Cup as well. So they're competing across two additional competitions, which is giving them a little bit more of fixture congestion, particularly in this busy February month. But the negatives for Liverpool, well, they let that points lead at the top of the table slip, didn't they? 9 or 10 points. And other than Jurgen Klopp, none of the team really have experience of winning a league title. Remember, it's been nearly 30 years since Liverpool won the league in England, and Jurgen Klopp's really the only person in that dressing room who has experience of lifting a league title. He did so with Borussia Dortmund when he was in Germany, but the players certainly haven't had that experience, so they don't know how to get over the finish line yet. They don't have that experience of doing that, and is that going to be very, very difficult for them, particularly with the defending champions Manchester City so tight and so close behind them now.
Manchester City cannot rest on their oars either. It's Chelsea visiting the Etihad and slightly stronger with acquisition of Higuain. The first leg was deflating for City. Can you trust them to dispatch Chelsea, who will be in danger of losing their top 4 spot as well?
Well, you're right. Chelsea are in danger, aren't they, of slipping out the top 4, particularly because we expect Manchester United, who are just behind them in the table, to pick up all 3 points against Fulham when they play in the early game on Saturday. But I think there are some positives for Maurizio Sarri, the Chelsea manager, going into this game against Manchester City on Sunday. His side were the first to beat Manchester City, weren't they, in the league this season with that 2-0 win at Stamford Bridge back in December. And Gonzalo Higuain, you mentioned him, their loan signing from January. He looks like he's acclimatised to the intensity of the English game now, doesn't he? He scored 2 goals for them at the weekend in that win against Huddersfield. But Maurizio Sarri's side are incredibly inconsistent. Where they were efficient and ruthless in that game against Huddersfield, they were absolutely dreadful and the polar opposite before that in their match against Bournemouth, which they lost 4-0. And Kevin De Bruyne, he was missing for that match against City, for City in that match in December. He looks like he's back and approaching back to his best. He's coming back to full fitness after that knee injury. I think he could prove the difference for Pep Guardiola's side, perhaps.
If Chelsea lose, Manchester United could be huge beneficiaries if they find a way around Fulham then. Second halves under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer have been a bit of a struggle. Can Fulham cause an upset?
Well, I think United are the heavy favourites in this one, aren't they, George? Yes, their second halves have been patchy, but even against the top sides, that win over Tottenham in the last month or so springs to mind. If United get ahead, they are able to work together as a team now, aren't they, to defend their lead in a way they didn't want to or didn't choose to under Jose Mourinho. And David De Gea, they have a world-class goalkeeper, don't they? Remember some of the saves he made in that Tottenham match that I mentioned. So if Fulham are going to get anything out of this game, which I think they're really going to struggle to, they're going to need to sort out their own defensive problems, aren't they? 55 goals so far they've conceded in the Premier League so far this season. That's certainly a statistic that they need to look at. They need to start to keep clean sheets at the back, and they will need to do that on Saturday if they're going to get anything out of this game, you'd say.
Well, Liverpool have to do their best in such a difficult situation. Their injury list is growing by the day, and it's really difficult to find replacements. But can Bournemouth pile more pressure on Jurgen Klopp this weekend?
Maybe they can, yes. We've already mentioned, haven't we, that Bournemouth had that great result in the last week or so against Chelsea, that 4-0 win. And they had a great start to the season under Eddie Howe, didn't they? Really riding high in the Premier League. Things have petered out a little bit since those first few months. But that being said, they do know how to beat the so-called big sides in this division, don't they? They've done it before, as we say. And Eddie Howe won't be scared. I don't think he'll set up his team defensively against Liverpool. That's just not the way that this Bournemouth side play. And I think probably the way that they do play, open, expansive, attacking football, might be the best way to play against this Liverpool side, particularly, as we mentioned, because Liverpool are a bit nervy at the moment, aren't they? And we can certainly see Bournemouth stealing a goal or two, certainly with Liverpool's problems in defence at the back. I think certainly we can think that Bournemouth might get a goal or two in this game. But for them, really, it's a question of whether they can silence that front three for Liverpool of Salah, Firmino and Sane at the other end, I think.
Let's end with Arsenal then. And what should the club do with the biggest player, Mesut Ozil? Unai Emery is ready to draft him in, only on his terms. Ozil cannot be bothered. What should be the way forward?
This is such a hard one, isn't it? When you think back to the beginning of the season when Özil decided to step down from playing in the national side, Unai Emery spoke then as if the player was very much in his plans at Arsenal going forward. But repeatedly this season, the German's been left out of Emery's sides, and Emery's been asked to clarify after games why that's been. He's clarified that those are tactical decisions and not because the player was injured or sick. And I think if Arsenal had gone on to win those games without Özil, we perhaps wouldn't be talking or focusing on his omission quite so much. But of course, Arsenal didn't win those matches. That defeat at West Ham, that 1-0 defeat, is one of those games in particular, I think, that sticks out, certainly in my memory. And Emery was asked after that match again about his tactical decision to leave out Özil after that match. He got quite angry actually in that post-match press conference. And Özil is one of Arsenal's best paid and most high-profile players. So this is certainly a situation that needs to be resolved, absolutely. So will Emery start to play him more? Let's see what his team selection is for the Huddersfield game this weekend. But it looks like Özil, of course, he isn't leaving anytime soon. The transfer window is now shut. This is certainly something that the player and the manager need to thrash out.
live on radio, live online. This is The Locker Room with George Addo Jr.
And on our Facebook page, Liverpool fans are reacting angrily to the question we put out there. Should we expect Liverpool to bounce back? And they're already using "we are bouncing back." We are bouncing back. I've got 3 of those messages from Evan, Samankona, Edu, Jemfi, Isaac, and David Osimedu. They are indicating that we will bounce back, telling me they are Liverpool fans. No doubt they're joining me in studio right now to do a little bit of analysis of what's happening at Liverpool. So, Saki, how you doing?
I'm good, George.
Rick Wampofo, how you doing?
Fantastic.
Oh, yes. So let's get into it right now. Rick Wampofo, very quickly, can you take us through a bit of science? Scientifically, why is it that Liverpool all of a sudden are not playing well?
I think it's more of what you do with that 29-year-old curse, and the fact that since the Premier League era, they haven't lifted the trophy, and it starts to get to you as a player, as the manager, as you look at the environment in the camp. But for Liverpool, they tend to play very, very well when they are never under pressure. In the Champions League, where they didn't expect to get to the final, everything was smooth. They played beautiful football. They get to the final, and all of a sudden, when they start to feel the pressure, they tend to choke. But I think from a Liverpool point of view, things were sailing pretty well up until that Manchester City game, where they could have taken that lead to a 10-point gap. And I think that's when you could have confidently said that Liverpool would see this out. But losing that game, and all of a sudden nerves start to drop in, and it's as if Liverpool have forgotten what brought them this far this season. And it has been based on their defensive solidity with the inclusion of Van Dijk and Alisson. Remember that he had kept 13 clean sheets in the first half of the season. And now all of a sudden they've conceded a goal each in their past 3 consecutive games. So definitely they are being a little bit loose defensively, but they've not been that brilliant in terms of attack this season.
Just really thinking. And can Liverpool fans say this is down to the injury problems we have? We don't have the right men, at the moment. That's why that's happening. Or you still want to cling to that nerve issue?
I think they're just not creating enough, and it's as if they've forgotten how to attack, and that's a bit strange considering the powerhouse that they do have in Mohamed Salah, Mane, and Firmino. It was this trio that did save Liverpool's season last year, and it has just never ticked from the beginning of this season. It's rather looked like a solid unit that defends well and just manages to score a goal in a game. And in the beginning, everyone was saying that, yeah, that's how champions do win some games. You need to dig deep and, win some games. And they've won, 7 matches by a 1-0 margin. And it did speak well of them up until defensively they started to let some in. So I think that it is a little bit too late to go into the market. They do have defensive issues with a lot of injuries, especially to their personnel. But their best,
you go straight to the nerve issue. I think they're under pressure. That's why
I think their best bet would be to have Salah, Mane, and Firmino
start
kicking
scoring
back
again.
in. Yeah.
Let me get you, Selwyn. Then there's a lot coming up for Liverpool in terms of tough games and more competitions to play in. Do you think Liverpool can handle the pressure going up here? Because there will be some pressure anyway. They have the opportunity to heap pressure at Manchester City. That's if they can beat Bournemouth. What do you expect? Can they handle the pressure, Selwyn?
Well, at the moment, if I should look about Liverpool and I can compare them to Man City, it has to do with the squad in depth. And if I check Man City's bench, in the last game against Arsenal, we have players like John Stones on the bench, there's Danilo on the bench, there's Sane on the bench, Jesus on the bench, Mahrez on the bench, Delph on the bench. And that starting lineup City pulled up, beat Arsenal 3-1. If I look at Liverpool's bench against West Ham, they had Camacho in there, they had young players like Jones, Klein, who was the one supposed to be the replacement for Trent Alexander-Arnold on the right back position, has been loaned. So in that position alone, they've not even found someone to hit in there since they've had injuries. Gomez is also injured. Milner can be someone playing in that position. So I think at the moment, Liverpool say that last season we're very close to clinching the Champions League. This season we improved our squad. We signed players like Keita, we brought in Fabinho, because they wanted to fight for the Champions League or even fight for the Premier League. They want to win everything. So they themselves, looking at themselves, will be quite ambitious to say that we can go for both trophies. But in reality, it doesn't look like that. They have to think about it. If I should look at both trophies, Champions League and the Premier League, the Premier League is within their reach. the Champions League looks a bit far-fetched because the round of 16 games against Bayern Munich, you are not sure you're going to beat Bayern Munich. Even if you beat Bayern Munich, you don't know who else you're going to meet because it's the Champions League. There are so many big teams that you can win. But here in the Premier League, it's quite close. Man City is breathing down your neck, but then this is where you can fight for. You don't have enough players because of your injuries and all that. So why don't you just limit yourself for the Premier League at the moment? Try and fight for that.
That's your advice to Liverpool is exit the Champions League, concentrate on the Premier League.
Because that's the safest way. If they have to, your squad in depth doesn't even merit that you can play all these tournaments together at the same time. You just have to think about one.
I just go around the table in 30 seconds so we can talk about Champions League. But quickly, Riku, just in 30 seconds, who does win the Premier League for you?
I think I would go for Manchester City because it is really close in terms of points, and it would come down to who has the experience. And you look at 98% of the Manchester City players, they've been there before, they've done it before, they know what it takes to do it. So
you go for
I think they have the psychological edge over a cut down Liverpool side.
So you have in front of you the fixtures for both teams remaining. Right. Does that change your mind? Does it change your mind a bit? I mean, I thought you were tilting towards Manchester City.
Yeah, I'm still in Manchester City because Liverpool next game is against Bournemouth. Bournemouth is a tough side to play. After Bournemouth, you have your Champions League game against Bayern Munich. After Bayern Munich, you have Manchester United. So in there possibly some things that you can lose. Watford at home, maybe Liverpool can clinch that. The Merseyside derby comes away against Everton. They are not sure about that. Burnley can just come and sit back and destroy you. After that, with your tired legs against Burnley, you're going to play against Bayern Munich.
But the point is you still stay with Manchester City.
Right. And Manchester City, if you look at their games, Chelsea, West Ham, Bournemouth, Watford, then they play Manchester United, Fulham, Cardiff, Crystal Palace, Spurs, Burnley, Leicester, Brighton on the last day. The last day is where against Liverpool's playing Wolves on the last day. Man City's playing Brighton on the last day.
These guys have gone for Manchester City. It looks like. Thank you very much, Selwyn. And thank you very much, for the AJ boys are always in and doing the job. Gary Al-Smith joins me in studio. Gary, how are you doing this afternoon?
Doing well, thank you, George.
Refreshing to hear the boys do the job. They will be on with us during the Champions League commentary that's returning.
Yes, they would. And we would be back as well from Tuesday until the 13th of March. That's for the round of 16, of course.
Yeah. And our first game is Manchester United up against Paris Saint-Germain. What a game to begin with.
What's a game to begin with? I mean, no Neymar, no problems. Hopefully that's what PSG will be saying. For United, though, I mean, you've just spoken about their good run since Mr. Solskjaer came on, and it's been refreshing that this tie has suddenly become something that will be fought.
So just
all angles.
Just in like 12 seconds, what should we expect? I know that we talk a lot more about that commentary on your show. Yes,
commentary, your text, especially your text, your WhatsApp messages, and your comments on Facebook and Twitter. More of the same quality. Even better drama, hopefully.
Thank you very much, Gary Al-Smith. And you know, the whole Joy Sports team and, of course, Joy FM will be somewhere tomorrow. Hope you're there.
My name is Gifty Wanyuma Dabra, and my son is Nevin. Nevin's